Good morning. We're going to talk a little bit about the power you have to create your own plan for aging. And one of the biggest things in that is maintaining your safety, not just the safety of your home, but there are five other areas of safety that we're going to talk about, or five in total that we're going to talk about, including your home. So I'm Mary Winters. I'm a gerontologist, the owner of About Senior Solutions, and we are going to talk about your safety. We're also going to bring Steve in with a caregiver question. I think all of this will be related to safety. We were able to pull some questions specific to that. And we'll also have Melinda on to talk about some great things. We had a wonderful presenter to come on today, but his wife wound up having a baby, which was actually around her due date anyway. So we will see Matt soon and wish them the best with this new baby that they're having. So let's go ahead and we'll jump into Steve's question. So let's see here. Hold on.
Good morning.
Steve. Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. Yourself?
I'm really good. Yeah, thank you. What's our question for today?
So, the question from today comes from one of our viewers. It says, I think my dad's house is too much for him to manage. He lives 3 hours away, and they don't feel like they could help out enough. And the dad's not really open to their assistance. So,
Well,
what can they do?
That makes it really tough when he's not open to the assistance. And
Right.
I think it's normal and really good that you not necessarily worry that you have to worry, but that you have that connection with your dad and that you are concerned and you want to try to support and help him. So sometimes we do better with a third party kind of checking things out. So maybe they have, quote, a friend who can check in on them. That might be a home care agency or a care management group that can come in and establish a relationship with their dad.
Right.
It's a conversation to have and actually sit down with our listener and have kind of walk through what some of those steps might be in regards to their dad's specific personality and what help they think he might accept or what he will refuse altogether. And I think the other thing too is his dignity. He's an older man feeling unsure, upset about the fact that he sees changes in himself, possibly. Maybe he has some memory loss or the inability to have some insight that he's had some changes. Or maybe he's getting older. We don't even know how old he is. And you're just concerned because of his age. Maybe he actually is doing pretty well on his own. So I would say if you do have that relationship with him and you are able to be in his house, look at the things that you might be concerned about. Is there a lot of clutter? Is the yard being maintained? Does it look like there's damage to the house where there's maybe water damage? Or does he have sufficient food in the refrigerator? Some of those basics are really the most important things to start with. And then talking about a plan to support him in the future. Or, Dad, have you ever thought about this? And sometimes I've talked about this before. It's kind of like leaving little seeds for a commercial kind of lets you know this is the best thing to do. So instead of having these full-blown conversations, sometimes it's like, I just worry sometimes. So maybe we can have a conversation about the things that I'm worried about, and maybe you can help me understand that I'm worrying unnecessarily.
Right. That's a good point. Expectations could be entirely different. So the dad's expectations of what he's happy with as far as how his house is could be totally different than what his children's are. So if there's clutter and it doesn't bother the dad, but it bothers the children, well then, that's fine. Versus something more serious where, if there's water leaking from a roof and the dad's not able to fix that or willing to fix it, and then it's causing like damage, right?
Sure, exactly. It could cause some really big problems. And maybe there's a bigger issue cognitively too. And that's a great reason to be able to pull him from his house and, see if there's some additional things that can be done to the house. Can we make a change to move him back with some extra help? Would it be better to have him closer to you? I heard that the listener is 3 hours away from his dad, so maybe there's an opportunity to move him closer or move him in with you. I don't know what all the specifics are or what the right answer would be in this particular situation without having more facts,
Right.
but it feels like just opening the door with, just looking and seeing what the concerns are and discussing those first. And clutter can be fine as long as it's not on the floor and creates a trip hazard. So if
Right.
there's a lot of paperwork, maybe they've always been kind of disorganized. So maybe that's not an abnormal thing for your dad too, if that's the case that your dad is doing that. So
Correct.
just looking at the signs, looking at what really concerns you, looking at what's practical, what is truly a safety issue. I don't know how long mom passed away, but sometimes there are some issues wrapped into the grief of losing a spouse as well. Maybe they were divorced. I don't know. So all of those little factors play into how we would approach something. And we can only kind of assume what the situation is. We're just kind of making up facts for the scenario right now. But just in general, just understanding what upsets you most, what are you seeing is the biggest concern, and then truly, is it something that can be pacified with,
Sure.
just some easy pickup, or is it going to be a true issue? Because I don't know, maybe dad is a hoarder actually. So,
Yeah.
those little
Lots of
things.
unknowns.
Yeah, lots that we don't know. So, and lots of opportunity to make some little minor changes that may be the biggest concern. And that's what we want to focus on, is what is the biggest concern and
Right.
what can we do to support or fix that, and, humbly walk in and see what we can do to not just change, but create some safety and embrace that support so that he feels like he's supported and not railroaded.
Right. Yeah, that's a big point.
Yeah. Great. Well, I know you're going to come back on to talk about,
Yeah.
we'll have a moment in history. I think we also had, just because it's kind of a fun thing to share, we had the announcement of the next theme for the Rose Parade, right? Were you there last night or?
I was there, and yes, the 2025 Rose Parade theme is Best Day Ever.
I love it. And that's what we love to do for our clients, to create that best
Mm-hmm.
day ever. So I love that theme. I think it's really broad, and they'll be able to have some really interesting float themes and so forth too. So I think
the poster is amazing. It incorporates a lot of what the parade in the game is about. So if you get a chance to get a copy of the poster, review the poster, I think you'd be very impressed.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It'll be fun. All right. Well, we'll see you back. We'll talk a little bit about the perk. We'll talk about a day in sports history, and we're going to jump on over to Melinda and see what she's doing.
In a bit.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and talk with Melinda, and we'll talk a little bit about safety together, in addition to her side on the physical side of safety and what that means, what that looks like, or how she supports clients with that as well. And let's see, I think we can find her little intro here. So here we go. Oops, wrong one. Hold on. Right. Morning, Melinda. How are you?
Hey, good morning. I'm driving into work, so I'm going to pull over too.
All right. Sounds good. That's because we're talking about safety. It's important that you're safe.
Yeah,
too.
right?
Yeah.
That's very important.
While you're pulling over, I want to go into the 5 points of safety. So we really look at what is your, what do we need to do to support your emotional safety, your physical safety, your financial safety, your legal safety. There are things, techniques that we can use to support you legally, and with your home safety. So specifically, I know we want to talk about physical safety and support.
Yeah.
So let's share a little bit about that.
One of the biggest things that someone can do for their physical safety is build muscle. So muscle not only functions on our body by helping our body move through space, we contract the muscle and we can move the skeleton, The secondary job of muscle is as protection to it protects our skeleton, protects our internal organs. So muscle acts as a cushion around our body if we fall, if something hits into us. Like I was hit a couple years ago by a motorized scooter coming down the sidewalk. When that impact happens, muscle absorbs that impact. The muscle is damaged, but the muscle can repair itself, and the muscle protects the skeleton and the internal organs. So we want that layer of muscle that will protect us in the event that we fall or that we're hit by something, there's an impact to our body. The other thing that muscle does on the body is it stabilizes the joints and it holds the skeleton in proper position. So most low back pain, and a lot of people know this, that most low back pain is just due to weak back muscles or weak core muscles. Really, the muscles just don't hold the skeleton in the proper position. And over the course of the day, they begin to fatigue and fatigue and fatigue. And if they're too weak to do that, that's when the person experiences that burning of that muscle pain and the uncomfortable sensations of just not having the strength to hold the skeleton in the proper position. The same thing with joints. Knee pain, a lot of knee pain is really just the muscles that surround the knee are too weak. And so the knee is not properly supported. And as that knee joint moves, if you're going for a walk, because the knee joint isn't moving properly, it's impinging on tissues, which creates inflammation, and we experience that as swelling and pain. So just by strengthening the muscles around the joints, those joints are properly supported, and that can completely eliminate the pain that we're feeling. And muscle's really important also for balance. So balance comes down to a combination of how much muscle we have and the flexibility of our muscles, tendons, and ligaments. If you've ever had that experience where you go to step off the curb and you misjudge how high or how low the curb is, and you kind of, falter there, it's your muscle and the flexibility of the muscles, tendons, and ligaments that are catching you from falling. And that can be really important, especially as we get older. And that's why as we get older, our risk of falling is so much higher. So just having that muscle on your body is really, really important.
Exactly. And that's why we want our home safety to be supported with, the clutter in regards to being able to walk safely through a room. If we need proper handbars or a walker to use throughout the house, that's also important to consider, because it's really about prevention too. We don't want to fall. We don't want to have those episodes, and certainly accidents happen, but with fewer impediments in our way, it supports us. And obviously, if we're doing something to support our muscular system and our skeleton, we are less likely to have breaks then too. So let me go ahead and I'm going to bring Steve in too. And we'll talk a little bit about the 5 points of safety, and just talk a little bit about some of those other pieces too. So, it's really important to look at our emotional safety as well, and unburdening ourselves and making sure that we're supported emotionally and protected from elder abuse. So we look at issues wrapped around our finances and how do we keep those safe. We look at issues wrapped around, do you have a proper estate plan? Is that protected properly? Are you do you have somebody to help make decisions for your health care in the event that you can't? Do you have somebody who can pay bills for you in the event that you can't? All really important things. And protecting your finances. What do you have in regards to managing and supporting and alerting you or an important person regarding your finances? It's kind of neat. We wind up working with a lot of financial planners too, who really understand the big picture of what they're planning to support. So it makes it really handy in regards to setting up the appropriate resources to help them as well, once we know exactly what they want and what they need. So the safety in all of those areas, we see people who have been taken advantage of, and those funds that they've saved a lifetime for have vanished, and oftentimes they are not able to be recovered. And I have to say, some of these financial abusers, these professionals, really are professionals, and you don't have to have dementia to be spoofed. So, just really important to stay aware of some of those tactics or the horrible abuse that people, induce on other people, just so that they can take advantage and use that money for themselves. It's pretty horrible. So, any questions on some of those things in regards to protections?
I think the emotional protection really feeds into physical protection as well. The emotional mind body is so connected. So a lot of times you need that like emotional protection even to engage in an exercise program, or that emotional protection allows you to feel safe in the choices that you're making as far as your diet and your nutrition. So those two are totally interlinked for me, and that can be neat too, because you can kind of work on both of those at the same time.
Sure. And I think when we have close connections to friends and family, you're less likely to be taken advantage of because you have that person that is your voice and your support. And I always tell seniors too, if somebody comes knocking on your door or ringing your phone, you can make a big husband up, or a big son, or a big neighbor who watches after you. You don't have to tell them the truth. You're protecting yourself. You don't have to worry about what they're trying to take advantage of you. You say and do whatever you can to make sure that you can keep them away with whatever protective blanket you can. I'm sorry, I can't make that decision. My husband won't let me do that, even if you don't have a husband. Or my son, I'll have to talk to my son first. And oftentimes those calls end up in a hang up. So create those protective bubbles for yourself too, and develop those, maintain those relationships for yourself.
Right. I think it's important to have that support network too, because I hear stories of seniors that they get taken advantage of and they're too embarrassed to tell anybody about it. Like they're not close enough to a family member or a friend. And instead of nipping something, at the start, it could just continues because that person they don't have someone to go to say, hey, this happened and I don't think it's right. What do you think? Or, like this person's asking me for money and I gave them money. Does this sound legit? But then once they realize that it's not, they don't know how to get out of that situation. So having that support group they could go to would be really helpful.
Yeah, it's interesting because it almost becomes like shame. So when we're teenagers, we're embarrassed. We have shame because we have acne, or we, aren't from the right side of the tracks, or we had, poor test scores. And it kind of starts developing again with different issues as we age. Well, I can't walk like I could, or, I got bamboozled here, so I don't want to say anything. It creates shame. Mm-hmm. And I think when you can sit down and say, this, I had no control over. I need help. I need support in this area. We need to go to the police, or we need to unravel what I've been doing. I thought that this was a kind, generous person who was helping me. I don't want to hear you say, I told you so, or, mom, dad, this person is, because that creates more resistance and increases the level of shame for an older adult. So yes, you're right. You have to feel safe to have those conversations to say I messed up. But the other thing too that's so interesting about how sophisticated some of these people are is it doesn't matter how old you are. For example, I have a friend a few years ago who is in her 50s, and it was a perfect storm. Somebody called, said, do you want to extend the warranty on your computer? It was about that time. She'd had it for a year. She said, sure, here's my credit card. And all of a sudden she started seeing all of her data leave her computer. She immediately turned it off, said, you're not who you say you are, hung up with them, unplugged her computer, raced it over to her computer guy, called American Express or whoever the credit card was that she was using, got the fee canceled. And, and she shared it with everyone too. I think in part because she knew that she had some control over that, and it was just a very odd set of circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
We can often see seniors who are embarrassed by that, and you're right, Steve, they don't share it. So please be aware that they are very, very sophisticated abusers out there. So it's better to share and to make sure that we can mitigate whatever the issue is before.
I think there's a window too where it goes from, hey, this happened to me and it's wrong and I don't want it to happen to anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
If it goes on for too long, then it becomes the shame and the embarrassment.
Yes.
And, they're less likely to want to talk about it. So.
Yes. And oftentimes there can be a cognitive issue that's preventing you to have that appropriate insight to say, this is somebody who's abusing me. Years ago, I worked with a gentleman who became conserved because he went through all of his savings from an abuser who his trigger was, I want to support the veterans. So he donated all of his money to these thieves. And then he the only reason anybody knew anything more was because he had no children. He went to a neighbor and said, hi, I'm out of funds right now, so I can't donate anymore. I've already donated $300,000, but I just want to see if you could help this cause because they still need support for this organization. And the neighbor went, what? And then obviously the court situation pursued, and he was able to secure and keep his home safe and so on and so forth. But very, very savvy people for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So our 5 points of safety, we have physical safety, emotional safety, financial safety, legal safety, and safety at home. And safety at home is, certainly from the inside and the outside. So are you keeping track of your home so that you're safe in it? But how about maybe some hedges on the outside? Are there things that you need to cut down so that people aren't able to kind of hide behind bushes and take advantage of you if you came out of your house? Create a clear view so that even if police were driving by, they could see that things are safe on the outside of the house, at least on the outside. I don't know what your backyard looks like, but right. we are dealing more and more with homelessness and people that are not mentally well, and some very interesting situations. Not to scare people, but just to be aware. I think just to be aware of your situation. So let's go ahead and we'll switch over to the perk, because we love the perk. We know that today is National Popcorn Day. And the pun is, thieves who steal corn from a garden could be charged with stalking. So that's kind of like, I guess that's like your home safety on the outside. But you can get a hold of this for free if you'd like. We have Ginny in our office can get this to you for free. We will send it out to you and make sure that you get a copy sent in your email. The flip side of this, we have a word search, which is great. It's a great brain health things to keep you safe with your mind there, improve or maintain your health, your brain health. There you go, got the words. So feel free to reach out to Ginny at GINNY at aboutsenior-solutions.com, and we'll get that out to you for free. You could share that with whomever you like. It's just kind of a fun little thing to be part of. Steve, what is the day in history today? Sure.
So today's day in history, this is not going to be favored by fans of the UCLA Bruins, but the year was 1974. The location was South Bend, Indiana. And on this day in 1974, Notre Dame beat UCLA in men's basketball 71-70, ending UCLA's 88-game winning streak.
Wow. And that was probably with Wooden, right?
That was John Wooden. Yeah. The irony is, so the last team to beat UCLA was Notre Dame. So Notre Dame beat UCLA in 1971. And then the next week, UCLA played UC Santa Barbara. They beat them. And that was the first of 88 games in a row that they won. That included 3 NCAA championships.
Fantastic. My friend's father was on that team, Carl Bull.
Nice.
He was one of those basketball players, and it was a joy to be around him and hear his stories. And towards the end of his life, he had a lot of time where he went back and spent time with Coach Wooden. So those were fun stories to hear about that too. What an amazing coach, an amazing mentor to so many. Just really, really phenomenal. Well, that is fantastic. And so any closing words from anyone? Any fabulous weekend plans?
Stay dry, stay safe.
Yeah, we're going to have some rain.
Be safe out on the roads.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And remember to consider your physical, emotional, legal, financial, and home safety when we talk about safety, so that you are hitting all of those marks and creating the best life ever, just like the Rose Parade is going to have for the 2025 theme. All right.
Best day ever.
Yeah, that's a
great theme. Yeah. All right, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend.
Bye.